ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to start the expansion of the town in this kingdom, and in the last episode, we built this farm with all these amazing looking fields, so if you haven't checked that episode out, definitely do. And while you're at it, feel free to subscribe because it's free, and this is the type of content that gets posted to the channel every 4 to 5 days. But let's not waste any time and get right into the video. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make some big changes around here today, not least over here by the vine plantation. But before we do that, I have some business that I'd like to attend to over here in the first area that I built in the world. See, I built these houses here on the lowest level a really long time ago before I had any plans to make YouTube videos whatsoever. So I've gathered myself a ton of materials over here, and what better way to make an intro time lapse than to make some big improvements around here. So without any further ado, roll that intro time lapse. The area we're looking at over here has been long overdue for some big improvement, and the day has finally come. I ended up changing a lot of the roofs to match the roof style we've been going for more recently in the world. So for this first house, that meant swapping out the warped plank stairs for these full blocks and more of the style that I've gone for up on the castle. And with this next one, I did the exact same thing, except I used the terracotta and brick blend we've been using for a lot of the other houses that you can see on screen. And those are the two block palettes I ended up using for all of these houses that I remade. The great thing about them is that they're very close to being complementary colors, so it really stands out, and we really managed to create that fantasy-esque pastel vibe that we're going for. And with some of these, I felt it would change the build a little bit too much to use the new roof style, so I just adapted them to the new color scheme, and I think it looks awesome. So I'm going to leave you with the rest of these transformations and hop into first person where we can take a closer look at things. See ya on the other side. Alright, now that is looking a lot more like it, I think. It's way more consistent with the rest of our village over here, and overall, I just think it looks awesome this way. And I did change up the red crimson trapdoors to these warped ones over here just to add that extra bit of contrast between these shutters and the roof, and I think it adds a lot. Now, you might be wondering why I changed pretty much all the other houses except this one right here, and the reason I didn't is because I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it. There is this empty section back here, and I was planning on putting a house here, but now that I think about it more and more, I kind of want to build this big house that takes up this plot and this plot right here, and make it so you have to walk through an arch right here so that you can get to the lighthouse. Let me know what you think about that idea, and also let me know what you think about the new designs over here. Overall, I think I'm the least excited about this house, and I don't really like the angle it's on, especially on the other side. So what I want to do is pretty much completely redesign this thing on stream. So I'll just ask you guys once I go live if you want to see me redesign this house completely or do some much needed terraforming. But before we get into the meat of this video, we might as well take care of a few chores over here in my harbor. The first being that I've had these 4 turtles here for a really long time, and there's only one set of names we can give these guys. It's so obvious. Say hello to Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. I mean, come on, it doesn't get more perfect than that, right? And while we're being productive over here in this area, we might as well get some trees plopped down. 1, 2, 3. And there we go. We've treed this area up nicely. This is looking so much better than the empty spot we had before. I was thinking about putting another tree right here, but I figured it might get in the way of remodeling this house later, so I didn't decide to go with it. But let's get more of this type of thing done all around this area. I mean, take right here by the church, for example. This place could definitely use some much needed attention. So I decided to add this tree over here, and I put some benches in, and honestly, this has to be one of the best picnic spots in the whole world. I mean, first off, just sitting down right here gives you a great view of the town. I mean, just imagine it. You're having lunch, you're sitting munching on your golden carrot, and you look down out over the docks and there's stuff happening everywhere. Yeah, this is definitely the place to be. And speaking of the place to be, or rather not the place to be, there's something I've been thinking about a lot recently that I'd like to talk to you guys about. And that is regarding these giant fields of grapevines. You see, when I built the fields here, I didn't know that I was going to build this giant mountain range creating the whole valley. And well, now that the village is sealed in by these mountains, it just doesn't make sense to have a vineyard right in the middle of it. In the last episode when I made these giant fields, I consciously put them sort of outside of the village because it just makes way more sense that way. In real life, you wouldn't have a plantation like this in the middle, so I've made an executive decision. I'm gonna tear down the vineyard. And don't worry, I'm not gonna tear down the building itself because I really love this building and I particularly love the interior of it, so that's definitely not work going to waste. We're just gonna have to repurpose it for something else, so if you have a good idea for what we're gonna do with it, maybe call it the mayor's house or something, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And you might be thinking to yourself, what are we gonna do with this area if we're gonna tear it out? Well, good folks, you've read the title of the video, and it's time we expand the town here in the Valley of Ventia. In the intro, we improved all these houses, but now it's time we add to the village with a ton of houses right here, and I know a lot of people love the vibe we got going on right over here in this part of the village, and I'd love to build more of this cramped, close quarter type village. So that's what we're going to be doing over there. So let's tear down some vines. Well. Admittedly, this looks pretty funny with the stripes like this, but it's not going to look like this for very long because this is all the space we have to build houses. So we can probably fit a good 10 to 12 or so, and I'd like to try to lay out at least some rough semblance of what I want it to look like. So I'm going to go get some colored blocks and try to explain to you guys exactly what I think about when I lay out my town. So what we're working with here is a pretty small space, but that's not going to be a huge deal because we're going to be putting our houses together super close, just like over there, like we talked about. And so what I'm going to do is just lay out a bunch of different house layouts here, and what I need you guys to do is come up with a few different professions and things that we should have in these houses. One of the ideas I have, and that I really want to build for this episode because I'm super excited to do it, is build a school over in this area. But let me first get some house outlines in here, and I will get back to you guys and tell you exactly what my thought process was. Yeah, I've been very busy, and I ended up doing these two sections and not this one. We'll do something very similar over here, but overall, I'm very happy with this progress, and it gives me a lot to work on. Like, each of these houses is probably going to take me at least an hour to design and an hour to build, so that's a lot of hours. But there are a few things to go over here, namely the fact that I wanted to go with a lot of different shapes, and these are very preliminary shapes. Like, I basically just wanted to say, okay, this one's going to be on a right angle, this one's going to be on a 45-degree angle, this one's going to be on somewhere in between, right? And so all these blobs are subject to change in the future, but that's all in the details. And in the end, I think this village is going to come out even more cramped and awesome than over there, and I am really looking forward to getting into this. I didn't have to keep too much in mind with sightlines because the castle's so high up you're going to be able to see it over the roofs, but with this path in the middle here, I ended up making it long enough so that when you're walking down it, you'll be able to see the castle through the roofs, because if those houses at the end were a lot closer, you would just be obscured by them and not able to see it. So as long as you guys keep things like that in mind while you're building for yourself, everything is going to be totally fine. Oh yeah, I also think I'm the only Minecraft player that has custom shears. Like, who needs fully enchanted choppinators? This guy. But good folks of the internet, if you're excited to see any particular kind of house here in the village, let me know in the comments. But I think this is an awesome change that we're making, and I'm really looking forward to getting it done. Speaking of which, we've got something to get done over there. I actually want to get a head start on this place in this video already, so I decided to lay out this andesite right here, which is going to act like a base for the school I'm going to build. And funny enough, I went to a really small elementary school with only about 75 kids, so I figured I'd build something similar here in the world, and I think it's about time we get to some time-lapsing in this video. So without any further ado, grab your snacks and drinks, and roll that time lapse. Oh yeah. To start off this build, the most difficult part of the whole thing was actually deciding the dimensions of the base. Most of the larger builds in Ventia aren't massive compared to the regular houses, so I needed this to be bigger than normal, but smaller than, say, the church or the castle, and that wasn't super easy to do. But in the end, I think I found a good middle ground, and the biggest inspiration for this school build, like I said earlier, was my small elementary school, which was made of yellow wood. So to pay respect to that reference, I used yellow terracotta for the walls, which I'm really happy with because I've been trying to find excuses to use more colors in the kingdom, and earlier we got to add a lot of orange and cyan to the roofs of the dock houses, and now we get to add even more, so I am a happy camper. Otherwise, I did a lot of ornamentation with the spruce stairs and trapdoors around the windows to add some depth and flair, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And as you can see in the shot here, there is some space behind the school that I left empty where I think I'm going to build a playground type area for the smaller kids, and I want to add a staircase that leads up to the hiking trail up there. And I didn't want this backside to be boring and empty and plain, so I decided to make a huge A-frame where I could put a large balcony, because in the game here, the sun is most often behind this house anyway, so I think that works out quite well. It gives this area in the back a little bit more personality, and you can actually see it from the hiking trail, which adds a little bit more interest from there. As for the roof, which you'll see me put in here in just a second, I decided to go for an old Ventia classic, the warped wood and some cyan wool, and this is the part that deviates from my real school the most, because in real life, the roof was all black and didn't have this teal pattern that I've gone for, but this fits in way better with the surroundings, and it gives off that kind of pseudo fantasy vibe that I'm going for. But you know what? I think it's time to check this out in first person with some shaders on. So ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the other side. Yes, the shaders are on and everything is looking great, but before we get on to looking at the school here, I want to read you the comment of the day, and it reads as follows. Sanjay says, for the chicken coop, you can add a waterlogged slab with a yellow coral fan on top, then put an item frame on top of it and put in an egg. It'll look like a bird's nest. I thought this sounded like a great idea, so I actually tried it out over by the chicken coop. Let's check it out. All right, pigs haven't escaped. Looking good so far. They're actually using the sty as well. Very good, very good. But over here, I actually didn't have space to waterlog the slab, but I thought the coral fans looked really, really good in their dead state as well. So it looks like the chickens have laid some eggs in here. We, of course, have them swaying in the wind because of the shaders. But thank you, Sanjays. This was an awesome tip. This looks great. So definitely add this to your building repertoire, and your chicken coops are gonna look awesome. And while we're here, we might as well name the pigs. I asked you guys last episode what we should name the pigs, and you guys came up with some great suggestions. And my favorites from two different users were Amelia and Hamlet. To oink or not to oink? That's the question. But before the sun sets over here, let's take a look at our newfound building. There it is, man. It is looking awesome. What are you doing, guy? Yeah, I'm super happy with how this came out, but we still have a few things to get done. I mean, this stripy dirt stuff going on right here is not gonna fly, so let's redecorate the area around this place, and I will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, the changes have been made, and first off, we've got a little bit of foliage here in front. I think that makes it look really cool and welcoming. And then what I did is, as you come around here, I added a little bit more of this stuff over here. I built myself a little sandbox as well with a tiny sand castle and some little buckets. And what I'd like to add right next to this is a big tree right here where we can hang some swings off some chains. I feel like that would be the perfect addition to have along here. But then I did what I said I was going to do, and I added this staircase right here going up to the path, and I wanted it to stick out a little bit, so I used this brick and terracotta blend, and I think it looks pretty good. It's a sweet way to get up here, and I still need to decorate this area with tons more details, so if you guys have any great suggestions, leave them in the comment below, and I'll get to that when I build the tree with the swings here. I love this overgrown part here as well. I need to do more of this in the kingdom. I used to do this a lot, and now I just haven't gotten to it, but I feel like this right here is definitely the way to go when you're detailing in your world. But coming around here, we have the back entrance, and I did add some foliage over here, but just in general, connected the path all around so that you can take both ways. I think it's awesome when we build stuff like this that adds a little bit more purpose and context to our world, which is why I asked you guys to tell me what you'd like to see to get built here. Oh, and speaking of which, I think I decided what I want to build over here. I don't think I'm going to do a large tree. Instead, I think I'm going to make a lot of trees kind of hiding an old shack. Just a really old, overgrown building, maybe a little bit haunted. We'll see. I'll make it really hard to see from the path here so that it's not totally obvious that it's there. But ladies and gentlemen, kind of how I talked about how I'm going to redesign this house on stream, I think I'll be building most of these houses, if it's not a super special one, on stream. So definitely look out for those live stream notifications, and I hope to see you there. But guys, last episode, I asked you if you wanted to see me to build my rabbit farm, which I'm really excited to do. I think that's what I'm going to do next episode, but I will leave it up to you guys to decide: rabbit farm or continue over here by spawn with the marketplace. Either will work perfectly fine. Last time, I gave you guys the third option for me to work over here, and honestly, I was just so excited to start expanding my village project here that I kind of chose that one on my own. So this time, rabbits or spawn, it's up to you guys. And look how much more awesome our village looks in the distance right now with the better roofs that we made. It's such an improvement, and I'm really excited to see where this leads, and I hope you guys are as well. But with that said, folks, I am seriously running out of time for this episode, so I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'm about to go live on stream, so I really hope I see you there, and if not, I hope to see you in the future. But as always, if you stayed all the way until the end, then you're the champ, and I appreciate your existence. So until we see each other next time, have a good one.